Hey, this is Sam Black with a legacy cube draft while we wait for Modern to become playable on Magic Online after they fix the banned list and we get the new set. Let me just adjust the screen here quick so that you can actually see everything. Right, there we go. I've only played once with this cube, but it seems pretty fun. I won with a recurring nightmare value creature deck that had reanimation sub-theme. And in general, it felt like just drafting good cube cards was a good way to go, although I understand there are some more linear decks that are supported well. In this pack, the cards that jump out, I think Baneslayer is better than Archangel of Thune, but it's pretty close. They're very similar cards. I don't like these things. Abrupt Decay is fine, but it's 2 colors. I'm running out of time here. I'm going to take Remand. I think this pack is pretty below average. None of those cards were like strong enough to give me real direction, and Remand is a flexible monocolored card that's going to make my deck a little bit better without forcing me to go somewhere in particular, kind of. Here, all of these seem like Chandra, Liliana, and Olivia are just medium threats. Like, they're fine sorcery speed things that you can do that try to close a game, but that's the sort of stuff that I look to just pick up and slot into my deck later rather than a driving force. Dualcaster Mage looks like a sweet card, but I always see it go super late, and it's always hard to fit into decks. Don't think it's the way to go. Marsh Flats and Savannah are both reasonable picks to just open up your flexibility in the draft. Given that I have a blue card and not a green or white card, I'd take Marsh Flats, as it's more likely to be able to fix for the deck that I end up playing if I go with the fix route. Realistically, I think that Llanowar Elves, Moloku, Marsh Flats, and Unexpectedly Absent are the most justifiable cards here. I could go more length, but I'm under a bit of a clock. I think Unexpectedly Absent plays best with Remand. Just sets me up for a good interactive deck. Whereas I don't love Remand and ramp strategies, though I do generally like blue-green ramp. Here, Elspeth stands out as where I think that something like Liliana is just a generic threat. Elspeth, I think, is one of the best. Liliana is pretty average. Nicol Bolas is quite good, but hard to be the right colors for. Relzeric is like a Kiora type card. Abbott's good, but not the direction I'm going. It plays really badly with cards like Remand. This is generic filler fatty. Mirren Crusader is not right for the direction I'm going. I don't need to move into Black Control. I think the realistic options are Top, Sphinx's Revelation, and Elspeth. I think Top is pretty medium filler, and the best card is either Elspeth or Sphinx's Rev. And when I have a bunch of cheap interaction, I think Sphinx's Rev is either the better or more fun option. Here, I'm going to make a very me pick and take Kozilek. I think a strong case could be made that Frost Titan is the better card, and I think in most spots it will be. I think it's likely to win more games and like a higher percent to make my deck. I really like having an Eldrazi. I'm kind of addicted to Elixir of Immortality effects in Limited, and when I have things like Sphinx's Revelation and interactive cards, I'm setting myself up to play a super long grindy control game, and I want to have access to a way to reshuffle my graveyard in matchups where that matters, and the only way to do that is to get an Eldrazi Titan, which are fairly highly prioritized. So I value my first Eldrazi Titan early in a draft very highly because it gives me some flexibility about what I'm doing in the rest of the draft. This pick is given where I'm at largely between Venser and Journey to Nowhere. There are some other cards that are respectable to find. I don't want to be reliant on creatures the way that Mother of Runes pushes me toward. Similar situation for Kiora. Journey is a good, cheap, versatile answer that plays really well with Sphinx's Revelation, whereas Venser is a powerful card that's in my colors that I can draft around at this point. I'm actually going to take Journey because I don't really want the incentive that Venser creates in terms of taking things that are good to blink. Because I'm looking to be more spell-based rather than permanent-based, since all of my cards so far are instants. Here, picking up some fix in my colors is nice, but given that this is relatively weak fix and that two-color decks, especially two-color control decks, aren't desperate for fix, I don't think it's the pick. I like all of the blue and white cards here. Council of Judgment, Soulfire, Grandmaster, and Riftwing Cloudskate. Cloudskate plays really well with blinking, which there's certainly substantial incentive for, as we saw with that Venser. I'm going to take Council's Judgment. I want the super flexible answer in my answer deck. Grandmaster is also great. Plays really well with a bunch of blue and white spells, which is the direction that I'm going, and buys time against aggro. But ultimately, it's just a small creature that gives me some vulnerability to people who are attacking those, whereas Council's Judgment gives me one of the best and most versatile answers in the cube. I'm going to take Wrath of God here. I'm obviously perfectly set up to be a Wrath of God deck, and I don't think Emiria Angel is very good, especially in this deck, and there are no blue cards, and none of these are strong enough to make me want to move out of my color. If Wrath wasn't here, I would take Vindicate over Emiria Angel and look to be Esper instead of blue-white control. Or at least be open to going that direction. Similar spot here. I don't think Roast is a good enough removal spell to make me want to splash a color. And while Acidic Slime would be really good if I go like a Venser direction, I don't think I'm set up to be doing that, so I'm just going to take Angel of Serenity as a random top-end finisher that I'm not excited about, but could end up being good or good in some matchups. I'm actually going to move it to my sideboard as I hope to not play it. Mana Tithe and Archangel of Thune are both very reasonable. I always underestimate Mana Tithe. Like, I don't give it as much credit as it deserves. I think it's actually pretty great. But I always cut it because I'm stupid. Ratchet Bomb is also quite reasonable in this kind of deck, although it doesn't play super well with Journey to Nowhere. Archangel is a nice card to have. I like having these cards that are like unbeatable for certain red decks and stuff. I'm going to take Archangel for what might end up being my board or my main deck, depending on where I'm at for playables, but it's a really high impact sideboard card, whereas I think Mana Tithe, while quite good, is roughly replacement level interaction. Here I'm going to take Soldier of the Pantheon. None of these are any good for me in this. I can board in if I need a blocker against early aggressive decks. Similar, I'm going to take Mirror Crusader. It doesn't fit what I'm doing, so I'm not going to main deck it, but it does crush green and black decks basically by itself, so I can board it in those matchups if it's appropriate. I guess when I have Soldier of the Pantheon, Mirror Crusader, and Archangel, and not very many blue cards, there's always a chance that I'm going to like slowly transition into white aggro, so I'll take this late a quarter paladin. I could see myself getting into Bant and playing Primal Command, but I can just keep taking these white creatures that are tabling and have options on just becoming a completely different deck, a good version of a completely different deck at no real cost to me, so that's what I'm going to do. And it does appear that blue is fairly highly contested here. I didn't really see any blue cards I'd consider taking after a first pick remand and a third pick Sphinx's Revelation, so I'm looking at a blue-white deck that everyone is competing for, or at least where blue is being overdrafted, versus a white deck that no one's in that seems totally open. So this is a pretty strong signal to move into white aggro. So while my Sphinx's Revelation control deck would definitely like Oust here, I think I'm going to pay attention to the way the winds are blowing and go for this Geist of Saint draft. I'm going to move around which cards I'm expecting to play in my main and my sideboard in a second, or when I get a chance. Oust would be fine in either deck, but Geist is going to be quite good if I end up blue-white aggro. And I'd take Dungeon Geist, or I'd consider Dungeon Geist if I were base blue, but since I'm going to be heavily base white, splashing blue, Geist is the better place to be. If I were absolutely sure that I was going to be mono white rather than white splash blue, I could look at Oust or Core Skyfisher, but there's a chance that I'm going to be hedging, and also there's nothing pulling me toward a different second color, so I can easily just splash Geist in my white aggro deck if it comes to that. Ponder's great for blue-white control. These white cards are not great or important to take early for the white aggro deck. This seems like a good spot to pick up a Temple of Enlightenment that will be good in my deck either way. I think it's potentially even more important than the Ponder, even if I'm blue-white control. Sower would be way better in blue-white control. Precinct Captain's better in white aggro. Given the way Pack 1 went, I think I'm above 75% to table the Precinct Captain, even though there are no other good white aggressive cards in this pack. Day of Judgment would also be a good option if I were going control. I think I'm going to go Sower in case I end up... basically because I think I get a free card out of this pack by taking Sower, and if I'm white aggro, Sower is good against me. And there's a chance that I get good mana fix and end up straight blue-white beatdown, and then I have Precinct Captain and Sower. This is not a great pack. I guess Crusade is playable if I end up just white aggro. Whereas, like, Karmic Guide, Talrand, and Precursor Golem are not exciting. I guess I can actually just take Tectonic Edge, which will be good if I'm white aggro, and lap the Crusade. I really don't see anyone else taking the Crusade from me. Yeah, Tectonic Edge is the pick here. None of these put me... Like, I don't think I want to take Garruk and move into green-white or something. Linvala, Banishing... Oh, Elixir is in this cube. That's good to know. Does the thing that I'm trying to do with Kozilek. I think this is Banishing Light. I think it's better in both decks, although it's close. It and all of them are close in the control deck. Linvala is also a reasonable consideration, but I'm not prioritizing creatures in the control deck or 4-drops in the beatdown deck. Hero of Bladehold is like a really good card in the white aggro deck. And there's no reason to take any of the other cards. This is between a Johnny and Cloudgoat Ranger. A case could be made for Sacred Foundry in case I get, like, exactly Scalding Tarn, but I don't think that's the way to go. Looks like my white deck is going to be lower to the ground. I think I'm actually going to get more out of the Planeswalker, even though in a bigger, more blink-based blue-white deck, I'd be more about the Cloudgoat Ranger. If I end up being base white and playing cards like a Quarter Paladin, even though Battlecry wants all the tokens, I'd rather just have the 4-drop. So let's assume that this isn't happening, this isn't happening, this isn't happening. Let's tentatively assume I'm not remanding, although that could certainly end up in the white aggro deck. And let's assume that I'm just playing all these beatdown cards. Hangerback seems fine. I don't even know if I'm going to main deck in the aggro deck, but none of this other stuff matters. There's a good chance I will play it, and at worst, it's a good sideboard card. Oust and Skyfisher both tabled. Is Skyfisher good? Probably not. I could also just Dungeon Geist. It's really good with Sower. Oust is, like, pretty nice too, but I'm kind of heavy on removal. I'm just going to take the Dungeon Geist. Low confidence in that pick. guess tentatively this is in. I think this is a better white aggro card than Faith's Fetters, although it's like fairly close. There's also an argument for taking Lingering Souls and just trying to splash the flashback. But I think Banisher Priest is pretty good. I'd like some more cheap stuff. I guess at this point I didn't wheel the Precinct Captain, which is kind of weird. I guess someone who's multicolor values that more than these guys. Maybe they're trying to do a token thing. Maybe a white control deck just took it as a first striking blocker. Or maybe I just misremembered where it was in the pack and it did table. That's good. That makes me feel a lot better about where I'm at. The fact that I know that I'm not competing for this means that I'm less concerned about the fact that if I don't play these blue cards, I'm kind of low on playables right now. Which obviously implies tabling the Crusade. So now I'm just looking for more 1 and 2 drop creatures, basically. I have pretty good top end, a ton of removal for mono white. Likely I might just splash this because I like Pride Mage. I guess more likely than I am just, well, I'm going to keep the dream of sideboarding into a control deck alive and take this Elixir of Immortality. I don't think that I'm going to suddenly switch to green in pack 3. I haven't seen any signals that would make me think that that's where I want to be. And also, like, my white commitments are super heavy. Like, I have tons of double white, so it'd just be weird to start taking green cards and try to make it work. This looks better against me. Yeah, so I mean, if I determine that small attackers are bad against my opponent, I do just still have a ton of removal, and I can transition into playing a bunch of removal, Revelation, Wrath of God, Kozilek, these blue creatures that hit their creatures, and just board into a control deck, which is a pretty cool place to be. So here we have 2 good white 3-drops in Finks and Hallowed Spirit Keeper. I suspect that I'm going to table the Hallowed Spirit Keeper. Arid Mesa could potentially help fix if I end up finding a blue-white duel. I haven't seen and passed them, so they might still exist in pack 3. Anyway, I think I'm going to take Path. While I'm a little removal heavy, it's also just great. So it seems like a fine thing to do. The other option would be Finks, but I'm really 3-drop heavy. And also Path is great in both decks, of course. I think this card's pretty reasonable. I think this is reasonable in white aggro, although I'm disincentivized because of all the double white. Restoration Angel is good, but I've been erring away from blinking effects, and so it's actually not great in my deck. And Elspeth Knight Errant is outstanding in both. Total perfect card here. I mean, except that I want cheap stuff, and it isn't that, but really good. I want to 2-drop enough that this Lubriel Core is tempting, but it's not the right way to go. I guess I could take Hidden Dragon Slayer if I'm desperate for a 2-drop. It's not embarrassing. These 3-drops are going to table. I don't want both of them. All this stuff's going to table. I have a Johnny and Hero of Bladehold and Crusade. I think Secure the Wastes is actually a great card that also plays well with my sideboard into a control deck strategy. So I'm going to take this. and I'm going to get another card out of this pack. And I slightly hope it's Hidden Dragon Slayer, although it doesn't really matter. Mentor of the Meek would also be really good in my deck, and Silver Blade Paladin would be fine. Again, I've been consistently erring away from the Braga stuff, although I certainly could have drafted a deck with a lot of ways to recursively blink things, although not that many things that would be great to be blinking. Brimaz is good, but I'm probably going to get it later, and again, I have a million 3-drops. I'm just going to take Ravages of War. It's pretty good to have an Armageddon in a white aggro deck. Bone Splitter is not embarrassing, but it's not a card I'm super into. Hallowed Fountain, very easily over Condemn, and Gather the Townsfolk. Gather's fine, but I mean, obviously I want Hallowed Fountain, given what I've been saying about my mana situation, and how I'm going to try to splash Geist, and how it's great in the control deck, etc., etc. Sam, are you? Don't need another Anthem effect. Actual namesake. I'm good on that. What I need is to get my creature count up, as I only have 9 creatures in my deck, and early pressure. So this guy is pretty perfect. I mean, except that it's just not that good of a card, but it's very much on plan. Relic Ward is very respectable, but given that I have Hallowed Fountain, I'm going to take the Windswept Heath because I want my Geist of St. Draft Splash to be easy. And I believe that I'm going to see enough playables, although I don't think I'm going to see enough 2-drops. I think that I would be actively happy to have this card, but I don't think it's as good as the fix. There's the Blade Splicer. I do need more creatures, but Mutavault's kind of a creature. I just took Fix, which helps buy the creature, buy the colorless land. And this is really good to have in a beat-down deck. So, yeah, it's given deprioritizing 3-drops and that I don't have the blink effects. Mutavault's definitely the pick here. Hope I have to board into the control deck against someone. It'd be really fun to have like that radical of a strategy change up happen in Limited. Take Hallowed Spirit Keeper. I think this guy looks really sweet, and I've never gotten to play it before, so I'm actually pretty excited. My control deck might use Ulamog depending on the matchup, but I already have Kozilek, so it's not necessary. I'll take... oh man. Schadenport's actively good in the beatdown deck, although with Mutavault and Tectonic Edge, I'm kind of pushing it on colorless sources anyway, so I'll take this Righteous Confluence. It's going to be great to board in a variety of situations, whether I'm switching decks or not. Alright, I got literal all of it back, because, no one else is here. Mentor would be really good in some matchups. Like, it is a powerful card that works really well with my deck, but what I want is a 2-drop for the generic spots where I'm trying to attack. More everything being here. Given that I'm a removal heavy deck, which means that I'm threat light, I don't want Bone Splitter because I could end up on an all removal and Bone Splitter hand, and Vermez is a great smasher. Still, everything I could ever want is here, and this pick's actually hard. 28 with 5 lands, I'm at 20. I have like exactly enough playables for my beatdown deck, and Gather's like pretty good because I have Crusade and Glorious Anthem. Condemn is great in the control deck, but horrific in the beatdown deck. I don't think I'm going to play this guy. Yeah, so I got every card from my deck in the draft because I identified that it was open. And now, so this is definitely where I was supposed to be in terms of what was the most open in the draft and my seed and stuff. The question is just how good it is, because this is the best version of this that was available in this draft. And I also have a deep and robust, powerful sideboard. So I think that I should be well positioned with this draft. The question is just tuning this. I am not sure if I should be 16 or 17 land. I'm not super low curve. Probably 17 if I'm playing Mutavault and Tectonic Edge, maybe like 16 if I'm not playing Tectonic Edge. What cards are bad? Let's do a little group creatures separately here. See where we're really at. And now let's make this a little smaller so we can see what we're working with. And now let's regroup this by actual creatures separately. And now let's move Elspeth into creatures, because it very much functions that way. Ajani is not a creature. I think of most planeswalkers as creatures. They're like permanent based threats that you just deploy on curve and your opponent has to deal with them or they threaten to win the game. But Ajani is very much an anthem rather than a creature. It needs other creatures, and so it's not a good idea to count it itself as a creature. This is a 2-mana removal spell. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish removal spells. 1, 2, 3 anthems, 1 Geddon, and 13, 14, 15, 16 threats. So I think I could afford to cut a threat if there's one I don't like. My weakest threats are probably Hangerback, although it's good with the anthems if it breaks. Gather the Townsfolk, although if I'm playing all the anthems again, it's pretty sweet. Hidden Dragonslayer, although I like that it's good against decks where lifelink matters and good against there are just so many big guys in Cube. This guy has to be sweet to morph. I don't want to cut a 2-drop because I'm going to want to be morphing this guy a reasonable portion of the time. I probably would like to cut a 3-drop. I can just cut Geist. 3-drop heavy. My mana gets easier. I get to play both of these things. I feel better about 16 land with Tectonic Edge. I don't put a random cone to play tap land in my beatdown deck. Yeah, I should just be mono white. This is the way to go for sure. It took me way too long to get to that. And just to confirm, not really into any of this stuff main, although Archangel of Thune and Righteous Confluence are both really good sideboard options for this deck if I don't change strategy, but I'm just playing against another aggressive deck. Ranger of Eos is on the table against an attrition deck. So this is where I'm at. Now, just so that I have more time in sideboarding, if I want to switch strategies, let's see what my control deck looks like, and whether I can realistically do it. So I cut the purely aggressive creatures that aren't doing anything else. Precinct Captain's a reasonable blocker, could end up staying in. Hidden Dragonslayer is a removal spell. Burmaz is a great blocker. And let's assume this guy's off plan. Let's assume that we wouldn't want that. This is fine to play, but we'll come back to it. If we're going control, we're not interested in this. We're less interested in this. We're definitely not about this or this. Let's get to lands later. Secure is pretty awesome. I end up with a few random threats, which I think is appropriate. Geist may or may not come in depending on what's going on. And then we obviously want Wrath, and maybe this thing and this thing. And then a little bit of flexibility depending on what my opponent's doing. Might want Mother of Runes, might want Hallowed Spirit Keeper, might want Johnny, might want Angel of Serenity. So this is what the control deck looks like. Totally solid. If I were playing the Mirror, which obviously isn't possible because I have all the white aggressive cards, this would be a great place to be, especially if they were lower on removal than I am. Basically, this deck is going to trounce creature decks that don't have removal, because I get 2-for-1s in Banisher Priest and Dungeon Geists, and basically a 3-for-1 in Sarah of Temptation. And then I also just have Wrath of God and big finishers, and enough early interaction to stop him from killing me. So yeah, this deck is very good against, like, if somehow my opponent's aggro deck that is low on removal is just playing creatures that are trumping mine, like maybe if they have bigger green guys and I don't think I can compete with them with my white deck for some reason, this would be a good place to go. But I do think that it is not as good as the beatdown deck as a main deck. It's like not a great version of the thing that it is instead of a great version of the thing that it is, basically. Let's hope that experiment wasn't holding people up too much. This last card, no wait, this is in. What is in that is not supposed to be? Oh no, I was just 16 lands, all this is supposed to be in. Alright, and we are ready to go.